Okay, as we have people still entering the virtual ballroom, we will get started with week 8 of the Elevate AEC experience. And what an incredible experience it has been with nearly 1,800 registrations. The past 7 weeks of thought leadership have been an awesome journey. Well, today we kick off a big week, and we will start with a subject that is near and dear to me: marketing, branding, and differentiation. As such, I'm delighted to welcome Brian McCartney. He's the Chief Creative Strategist at Artmark Branding and Marketing. He helps AEC firms use strategic branding, digital marketing, online networking to increase their visibility and grow their authority and influence so they can attract, find, and connect with, and here's the key word, better clients and projects. His talk today is going to be awesome. If you know Zweig Group, you know we love data and case studies. So today's going to be a real treat. After studying more than 500 firm websites, including those of the Architect Top 50, Brian has come to the conclusion that most firms do not have an identified, clear role for their website. I absolutely agree, Brian. And now, Brian's going to explore 5 key opportunities for you to consider to make your website a key player in the business development process. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Chad. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak today. I want to also extend my thanks to Jamie and Will, and especially Olivia, who's busy behind the scenes and who's really been helpful in putting all this together. I want to congratulate you and your team on such a great event that you've been able to put together. This is really amazing to be here. So
Thank you so
I
much.
I'm I'm gonna try to dive right in. I got a lot to cover today, and to get started, I want to ask our viewers a pretty simple question: is your website helping or hurting your architecture firm? So here's something to think about. Do you know if people are leaving your website frustrated? Do you know if they're finding broken links and missing page errors on your website? Do you know if Google is telling them that your website could be a security risk? And do you know if they can even find your website if they do a online search? Just for a moment, I kind of want you to use your imagination. I want you to imagine that you have an ideal employee. They work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They never sleep, take breaks, or call in sick. They are always there to greet every new visitor to your firm, to answer their questions, provide them helpful information, and guide them to the people, the specialists within your firm who can help them even further. They might also be able to help schedule introductory meetings or calls, or help to collect and qualify potential new business leads. Now, if you have a website, potentially you already have this employee. But based on what we've learned, it's very likely that your website is not living up to its full potential. So, out of curiosity, and I'd love it if you would put this in chat. Would you know if your website was an employee, would you promote it? Would you demote it? Or would you fire it? I'd love to see some responses in chat. I want to know that you're there, you're hearing me, and also just ask you this simple question. Would you promote it, demote it, or fire it? Promote it, good, good, good. All right, fire it, demote it. All right, we're getting some responses. Thank you for that. That's awesome. I'm going to tally these up later. I'm going to see what we ended up with. If we had promote too many promotes or too many demotes, we'll see. Um, Most architects we talk to, they come to us because they're ready to demote or fire their website. They say things to us like, "I don't know who's visiting our website. I don't know if we get any leads from our site." I even had one person tell me that a website was just a necessary evil. Today, I'm going to share 5 important takeaways we learned from studying more than 550 now AEC firm websites. Before I do that, I want to just share a little bit more about my background. Again, as Chad mentioned, I'm Brian McCartney. That is not a typo. It is Brian, not Byron. My mother wanted me to be different, so she started with my name. I like to say it's Brian, but with a yo. Uh, I'm the Chief Creative Strategist and Managing Partner at ArcMark Branding and Marketing. I have 30 years of experience in strategic branding, online marketing, lead generation, and website design. I welcome all of you to contact me on LinkedIn. Just search for Brilliant Brian or go to brilliantbrian.com. That will take you to my LinkedIn profile. And please send me a connection request. Let me know that you attended this webinar. Now, just to be clear, I am not an architect. And, for the first half of my career, I was more focused on helping large, well-known brands develop online branding and marketing strategy. I was very fortunate to work with some amazing clients. You probably have heard of some of these, and that gave me the opportunity to learn a lot about what works online. For the past 12 years, my team and I have applied our expertise in branding, marketing, and online lead generation towards helping AEC firms with their branding and marketing needs. We help them to increase their visibility, grow their authority and influence, and we do that so they can attract and connect with better clients. So people ask me all the time, well, Brian, why did you study more than 500 firm websites? And a few years ago, we were actually prepping for a reverse trade show at a local AIA chapter. And, that's where the firms sit at the tables, and then you have an opportunity to go up to each one of them and give them like a 3-minute pitch on your product or service. In preparation for that event, we evaluated the websites of the 20 firms we knew would be at this event. And that actually got us some new clients, which is really great. I consider that a success in itself. But what we learned was really eye-opening. It was clear from that small study that many firms had, unfortunately, bad websites. And we wondered if this was just a bad batch. So we tested more sites. We ended up testing, it started with another 50, then another 100, then another 300. And we just recently passed 550 websites. What we learned was that initial batch, it wasn't just a bad batch. Unfortunately, what we realized in our study is that 75% of the sites we evaluated had issues that would create a negative visitor experience. And just for the record, our list included small to large firms, as well as new and established firms. And primarily, these were firms in the US. We also used a free publicly available website testing tool, which anyone can use. It's called Grader.com, GARDER.com. Overall, based on these evaluations, there was 5 key takeaways that I want to share with you today. These include the importance of making a great first impression, especially online. The 3 essential questions your homepage needs to answer in 7 seconds or less. Why your firm is not getting found online and why that matters. How many of the firms that we looked at, they tend to look the same, and why that's costing them opportunities. And finally, why you're not getting leads from your website. So let's get started. I think everyone would agree that it is important to make a great first impression, whether it's a networking event, you're presenting for speaking engagement, or you have maybe an introductory client meeting. Making a great first impression matters. What I want to explore is how it matters online. So according to a research study published by Hinge in January 2019, it clearly does matter. They found that 84% of AEC buyers will check out a firm's website during the buying process. They also found that 83% of AEC buyers rule out firms before ever talking with them. Now, this information is nearly 2 years old, and given our our recent episodes with the pandemic over the past few months, you can imagine that this number is probably much higher now. So let's focus on this idea of how can your firm get ruled out by your website. So if you think about your own experiences using websites, I'm sure there's been a time when you visited a website wanting to find some information, but you came away from the experience disappointed. Maybe the site was frustratingly slow. Maybe it was annoyingly difficult to read, especially perhaps on your mobile device. Maybe you received a warning telling you that the site might pose a security risk, or perhaps you couldn't find a site you were looking for in search results. Whatever the reason, the result was that you left with a negative impression. And just like you, your visitors are really busy. They can be somewhat impatient, and they're eager to find information, but they want to find it and they want to get back to their lives. They don't want to have to decipher or figure out your website. If your website is confusing or frustrating, they're going to leave with a negative impression. It doesn't matter if they're warm referrals. Any negative experience sows a seed of doubt. I've already shared that 75% of the sites we looked at had issues that would contribute to a negative visitor experience. The 4 most common issues we saw, and this should come as no surprise if you paid attention on the previous slide, is that sites were too slow, too difficult to read, not secure, or not found in search. So I want to explore each of these a little bit more in detail. So 85% of the sites that we looked at had website performance issues, meaning they loaded too slowly. According to Google, most visitors expect your website to load in 2 seconds or less, and 40% of visitors will leave if it takes more than 3 seconds for your site to load. The speed at which your site loads also has been cited as a factor in your search engine rankings. Now, in some cases, the reason your site is loading slowly, it could be due to a slow hosting server. It could be that you have too many plugins installed on your website. More often, when it comes to especially architecture firm websites, not to pick on anybody, but performance was slow due to large image or video files. The next issue that we looked at was mobile responsiveness. 48% of the sites were not optimized to be viewed on mobile devices, in many cases making them difficult to read. Since October of 2016, internet traffic from mobile devices has exceeded desktop traffic. In fact, 60% of Google searches start on a mobile device. Your website must be optimized for viewing on different devices. Website security was another issue that affected many of the sites we looked at. Now, I'll grant you this, some of this research dates back a couple of years ago, and in that time, a lot more sites have become more savvy about SSL certificates and the fact that they need them for their websites, but I still come upon websites that do not have an SSL certificate installed on their site. In these cases, Google will actually, in the Chrome browser and now in some other browsers, they will actually receive a warning that the site is not secure. And according to HubSpot, 82% of those visitors they'll just immediately leave. I actually think that's higher now, but sites that aren't properly secured with an SSL certificate are just more vulnerable to hacking attacks. But hacking attacks are also quite common on what are known as shared hosting servers, and these are often used for WordPress sites. So you got to make sure that you're paying attention to your website security. Finally, the fourth stat I'll share with you is when it comes to search engine optimization. We found that 90% of the sites we evaluated were not properly set up to be indexed by search engines. And this means that they're not going to rank well in search results. They won't get found in Google and other search engines. Now, we also found other errors or other issues, other issues that could affect how your website is viewed by visitors. Number one, there were a lot of sites with what I would call confusing navigation menus. So they weren't using standard terms to refer to different areas of their site. You really need to use plain language on your website navigation menu. You don't want to make people have to think or have to guess where you're hiding important information on your site. We also found a large number of sites had missing or hidden contact info. Some firms made their contact info very difficult to find. It was like I felt like I was on a getting punked. If I couldn't find a street address on a website or an email address or a phone number, I thought it was kind of somebody was playing a joke on me. Many of the sites we found actually use discontinued or unsupported technology. It means they're not updating their site regularly, and this can lead to additional security and functionality issues. Many sites had broken links or missing pages, so you would go to a link that was on the site and it would give you a 404 error. And believe it or not, 14% of the sites that we wanted to look at their website actually didn't have a functioning website. So they had a site, but either their payments lapsed or some other reason their website just didn't function. So here's some quick recommendations. I don't have time to cover every detail of creating a great web experience for potential clients, but at a bare minimum, here's what you should be doing. I recommend that you check your own website. Check it on your phone, your tablet, your desktop. Look at it carefully. What does it work as you would expect it? Do you get frustrated trying to find things on your site? If you have that frustration, others are going to have that frustration. And I also recommend that you ask others what they think of your website. Ask people outside of your industry, outside of your firm. Ask team members what they think. Ask your partners. Most importantly, ask your current and past clients what they think of your website. And third, try to create a consistent plan to improve your site. Plan to review your site on a regular basis, whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly. You do not have to fix your website overnight. In fact, in some cases, Google and other search engines like it better when you make incremental changes over time. So those are some of the basics. We've covered performance, responsiveness, security, search. The next takeaway I want to cover is what I refer to as the 3 essential questions your homepage needs to answer, and you need to do this in 7 seconds or less. Time is of the essence when it comes to catching someone's attention online. When a visitor lands on your homepage, they need to see information that reassures them that they're in the right place. So let's take a look at some firm homepages. So here's some. Here's some others. And here's another group. So I'm curious, did anyone see anything, I'd be curious to know what your first impressions are having looked at these thumbnails, right? You see any similarities? I think a lot of these sites, a lot of people, I think they think of architects or, people in the building industries to be, focused on design. And while these aren't bad designs necessarily, there's a lot of similarities in we found in how sites are laid out. They look similar in a lot of ways. And that, I think Jim just nailed it right on the head. They're all images and they give no info about what they do. This was exactly what I was hoping somebody would say. Aside from the visual similarities, there's just a lot of these sites are missing information. They just don't tell you what they do. Surprisingly, A high number of sites didn't even state that they were architecture firms. Here's a simple fact. Google cannot interpret your photos. Your images can't stand alone. You need text on your website. A lot of firms owners will respond that, the images are the focus. Well, okay, I get that. But here's what we know. 10,000 people see, average American sees up to 10,000 advertising images every day. Imagine that they are now looking through several different firm websites. After a few sites, they become what we call portfolio blind. The images just start looking the same. They're not as important anymore. What they're really looking for is information. And this is what I want you to take away. Your website is not simply a design problem. It's actually more of a communication problem. Visitors are looking for information to help them understand if your firm can solve their problems. But there's another challenge. According to recent research, the average human has an attention span of about 7 seconds now. That's less than this goldfish. Images alone will not grab their attention. We know from research that there are 3 essential questions, which, if answered effectively on your homepage, will draw visitors further into your website to learn more about your firm. So these questions are, number 1, what do you, the firm, do? What does your firm do? You have to answer that question. You have to answer the question of why they should care. And you also have to tell them what they need to do next. We refer to this sometimes as the grunt test. It's like those 3 minimum things you need to say on your homepage. Let's look at these a little bit more carefully. So what do? Here's just a simple rule of thumb. Website visitors can't read your mind. They are in a hurry. And you need to make things easy for them. When someone visits your site, the first thing they want to know is whether they're in the right place. They also want to confirm if you offer the services that they are looking for. And they want to know how your site is, or how your firm is relevant to them. So here's what we did for our client, Joyce Owens. We came up with the following simple text: modern architecture and interiors for a coastal lifestyle. It stands out on her website. Joyce designs luxury modern homes for clients on Captiva and Sanibel Islands here in Florida. This message is direct and to the point. It's not meant to make people guess what she does. If you're looking for an architect to design a luxury modern coastal home, you know you're in the right place when you go to this website. The second question visitors have is, why should I care? Like I said, people are busy. They want to know, why should they choose your firm? What they really want to know is, how are you better or different? What differentiates you from the rest? If you can communicate that in a short, simple statement, that's huge. And it's not about convincing them or winning them over in with just a small piece of text. It's just about helping them understand what's in it for them if they choose you. So for Curran Young Construction, they're a design build firm, and they're really focused on delivering value for their clients. They have found that many of the clients that they work for have been burned before. After an intensive branding process that we went through with them, we crafted the following statement for their website: you need a contractor you can trust. It's right there on their site. It's subtle, but it's an immediate signal to visitors that Curran Young may offer something different. The third question your homepage needs to answer is, what do you want your visitors to do next? What action do you want them to take? This could be as simple as asking them to call you to schedule an appointment. It could be, this is what we call a call to action. You want to direct your visitors to the action you want them to take. You have to tell them, hey, here's the first step in our process. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, after this call, after this webinar, take a look at your own website. Load your homepage. Don't scroll down the page. Just look at the homepage as it loads without scrolling or without looking at any other information. Are you answering these 3 questions? If not, I have something that might help. We have a simple checklist that we use whenever we review a firm's homepage. We turned that checklist into a short guide. And because you're here on this webinar, I'm happy to share this with you for free. All you need to do is simply drop me an email at info@arcmark.co. It's .co, not com. And include in the subject line, homepage checklist. And Olivia's put that into the chat, so you can copy that information and save it for later. If you do that, I'll get a copy of our guide to you, and it just gives you some different points that you can look at on your homepage to ensure that you're communicating the right information. So another thing we found in our research is that a lot of firms don't get found online. We found that many firms rank poorly in search results. They rank well for things like their firm name or the projects that they list on their website, but potential clients are not likely to find your firm that way. Those aren't the things they're searching for online. In fact, they may not even know that they need a firm like yours yet. They're searching for a solution to a problem. Now, if your website has answers to that solve those problems, they're more likely to be able to find you. When we point this out to firm leaders, they often push back with something like, "Oh, well, our clients would never search for an architect online." I'm not one to dispute anyone's assumptions unless I have facts. So I already shared with you that according to one survey or one study, 84% of AEC buyers check out a firm's website during the buying process, but we decided to do some research on our own. And we looked at, so we went into Google, we analyzed Google search queries, and we came up with a list of the top 20 search terms related to finding an architect. And we found that there were 65,000 monthly searches for those 20 search terms. Now, if you can imagine, that's just a very small sampling of the total possible search terms that people might use to find a firm. It doesn't include localized searches like architecture firm Nashville or civil engineering firm Dayton, Ohio. So this just represents a small, tiny fraction of the terms of the searches taking place each month for AEC firms. And with the continuing pandemic, your website is more than important than ever. Everyone is online. You need to be able to get found online. So how can you do that? Well, people will tell you there's a lot of opportunities to get found online. You can run ads, you can build a following on social media, you can have a podcast and a YouTube channel. There are many other ways, but at a basic level, there are 3 things that we recommend. Number 1, make sure that you address those basic issues that I just talked about, like the performance, mobile adaptivity, and make sure that your website is secure, things like that. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you know your audience. Who are you actually wanting to talk with? Who do you really want as a client? Doing this will help you create a more focused message rather than a generic one. And if you know who they are, if you know who you want to attract to your website, well, you can answer their questions. What we see is that a lot of firms tend to focus on sharing what we refer to as news items. They push this stuff in their social media, on their blogs, etc. They talk about the awards they've received, the projects they've won or completed, the new hires to their team, their community activities like volunteer work. And without a doubt, this is good stuff to share, but it's not highly relevant to your ideal future clients, those better clients that you want. It's more interesting to people who already have a relationship with your firm, like your team, like the people that you partner with. It may also be relevant to people who want to maybe work for your firm. I certainly believe that this kind of content is valid and you should be sharing it. But if you want to get found online by clients, you also need to talk about what we refer to as FAQ answers. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that you must have an FAQ section on your website. These topics work well for blog and social media posts, for emails and other channels too. FAQ answers refers to a category of content that answers the questions that are commonly asked by clients when they are starting a project before they're even thinking about coming to somebody like you. These include things like, who do I need on my project team? What do I need to get started with a project? How do I hire or select a firm? Now, who you want to talk to, the audience that you're trying to communicate to, is going to greatly affect how you answer these questions. But there's many other questions you can answer. The firm leaders tell us all the time, well, I wish clients would come to us earlier in the process, and FAQ answers are the types of content that are going to attract them in those earlier stages, because these are the kind of questions that they're talking or they're putting into Google. If your website and social media are answering these questions effectively, Google's more likely to send those people to you. So we've talked a little bit about getting found, but what happens when they actually do find you? We already saw that firms can look very similar, but our research revealed that that firms also have a tendency to sound the same too, and that can lead to lost opportunities, because it tends to make you look and sound like a commodity. So just based on your own experience, have you ever felt like clients don't understand your role? That maybe they don't see the value in the services you provide, or that they maybe don't understand the complexity of what you do? Maybe they get impatient about wanting to see results. Maybe they see the builder as more critical to the success of the overall project. If you deal with these kind of things, then they may see you as a commodity. And there may be good reason for this. According to a 2012 survey in inbuilding.org, most people don't know what you do. 72% of respondents were unaware that architects apply for planning permission. 86% had no idea that architects select and manage contractors. 15% didn't even know architects design buildings. When people don't understand what you do, you become a commodity. All they know is that they need someone like you. They may need an architect, an engineer, or a construction firm. But if they don't know what you do, if they don't really understand the process, they can't understand how you're different from the other options available to you. They just know that they need someone like you. And that unfortunately leaves the differentiation to one point, and that's price. If price is the only differentiation they understand, this means pressure to reduce costs, and it becomes a race to the bottom. So how can you stand out? What we have found is that many firms talk about thought leadership, and I'm not against thought leadership. But what a lot of that does, it doesn't actually, a lot of it isn't actually geared towards the needs of clients. Some of it, in fact, is much more geared towards looking inwards in your industry. And it focuses on trying to start or respond to new trends, trying to convince others what they should be thinking about. And while there is certainly a need for those discussions, I don't deny that at all. What clients really want to know is how you can help them. You need to find a way to show them that your firm is on their side. So Joseph Campbell has this central concept in his book, The Hero's Journey. So your role in your client's journey is to guide them through the project. Your role, your firm is not the hero. Your client is. And you want to be seen as a trusted guide by prospective clients. You want to be seen as a resource who can get them what they want. To do this, we recommend including content in the form of blog articles, and other content sections on your website that relate to what we refer to as insider insights. So these topics revolve around things like, how do suppliers work together on a project? What are some of the hidden issues or roadblocks that clients need to know about? Who is responsible on a project? There are many other of these types of questions, and again, it'll depend on your precise audience, but insider insights allow you to give clients a peek behind the curtain. They allow you to help them better understand and what they don't know that they don't know, right? And this content is great for building credibility, rapport, trust. It puts you in a role of authority. It's a way to demonstrate your expertise and your experience without labeling yourself an expert. Now, final takeaway I want to share with you from our research is that firms don't get leads on your websites. And in fact, this is what we hear all the time. Well, we don't know if we're getting leads through our website. We don't know, and we don't get leads through our website, right? I actually had a client. We got access to their website. I opened up their website, and I saw that they had 400 unresponded to emails on their site. So these were contact form requests that were sent through their website that were never delivered because they went to a website, an email that no longer existed in the company. So there may be many reasons why you're not getting leads on your website. Could be something strictly technical, that it wasn't set up properly. And we've covered several other reasons, performance, maybe people aren't going, deeper into your site. What we're talking about when we talk about getting leads is we're talking about capturing emails of visitors. So I'm not going to ask you to put this in chat, but there was a very low percentage of websites that we saw doing this. In fact, it was less than 1%. Less than 1% of websites that we looked at had an easy way to gather visitor emails. Now, there are other reasons, like I mentioned, why you may not be getting emails through your site. Clients are not always ready to hire you when they're looking at your website. Sometimes they just are looking for ideas, inspirations, resources. You're just thinking about a project. So they're not in that frame of like, hey, I need to hire somebody. As we also discussed, people may get frustrated and leave. They may not be able to find your contact info. I literally cannot tell you how many sites did not have an email address listed, and I just simply don't get that. We also found a lot of sites with complicated contact us forms. They were just simply asking too many questions. Clients don't want to fill out complex forms unless they're at a specific stage in the buying process. So you need to have different forms on your website that address different stages of the buying process. Number one reason they don't contact you on your website is because there's no real clear call to action. We mentioned that you need to let visitors know the next step. It's important that your website have an easy way to capture those emails, and that really should be one of those important first steps. Now, there's three real key advantages to building an email list. Number one, you own the list. This is an important distinction between social media. On social media, you have to grow a following. To gain access to that following, you have to work through the platform that you're on, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or any other platform. That platform controls who sees your posts. And like Facebook has proven to small businesses, they want you to buy ads in order for your content to reach your audience that you built on their platform. With email, you own your own list. You do not have to go through someone else to gain access to those people on your email list. With email, it's also easier to stay top of mind with people. Buyers can take a long time to move forward on a project. With email, you can stay top of mind during their decision-making process. Another thing you can do with email is build a relationship with your prospective clients. An email inbox is a private space. You can use this space to discuss the issues your clients are facing. You can share those FAQ answers and those insider insights I mentioned before. Email is a great way to talk about these topics. Now, there are different ways to capture emails on your website. Some people will offer a free white paper that you can download on a specific topic, going really deep into a topic. As long as it's relevant to your ideal future clients, I think that's great. Another thing you can do is host a webinar. So I've hosted a few webinars myself, and it's a great way to, people have to sign up for the webinar, so it's a great way to get their emails. Another way you can get emails is by creating a questionnaire. However, one of the easiest ways we find that works for our clients is creating a high-value download. So Coastal Craftsman Construction is a custom home builder. We created a simple downloadable guide to help their potential clients. And they get access to this guide by giving their contact details, so their name and their email. This guide helps them to walk through the decisions that they're going to have to make on the project. It kind of gives them an overview of how to build a team. It also gives them information on how to know the difference between a production home and a custom home. It also helps them to understand the different process, the different phases of the process. And it actually gives them a worksheet to kind of work through and prioritize their must-haves and the wish list that they want to focus on for their project. A guide like this is a really excellent way to get people to engage with your website, but also to collect their emails. And we often talk to clients about how it's important to have opportunities to start conversations with potential clients online. Getting their email is a really important first step to having those conversations with them. But there's other reasons why it's important to get leads online. Another study found that firms which get 40% or more of their leads online grow at twice the rate of firms that had less than 40% of their leads online. They also found that those same firms are 5 to 13% more profitable. I believe this might have something to do with the fact that acquiring leads online can be more cost effective and less time consuming than other methods. So I hope this helps you see how important online leads can be. There are many ways that you can share your experience, your expertise, and know-how to help you capture those leads. All right, so I'm going to just wrap up. We covered 5 important takeaways that we learned from our study of 500 plus architecture firm websites. Just to recap, what we learned was, number 1, the importance of making a great first impression online. The 3 critical questions your homepage needs to answer in 7 seconds or less. Why your firm is not getting found online and why that matters. We talked about how many firm websites look the same and why that's costing them opportunities. And we also talked about why you may not be getting leads from your website and what to do about it. For those of you wondering, well, what should I do next? As mentioned earlier, I think it's really important to check your website on a regular basis. Just put it in your calendar. Hey, here's a 30-minute time space to check my website every quarter. Look at it on mobile, on my phone, my tablet, my desktop, maybe even my funky old laptop that's sitting in the closet. Check to make sure that your site is creating the experience that you would want your visitors to have. I also recommend that you ask others what they think of your website. Get real world feedback. Don't design your website in a vacuum. I think that's a big mistake. Most importantly, create a plan and stick to it. Improving your site, if you make that a priority and you schedule the time to fix the issues you need to fix, incrementally over time, Google sees that, and they can, that really can help you get found in search. All right, so I hope this information has been helpful. If you are interested in learning more about how ArcMark can help you, I invite any of you to schedule a free, no obligation 20-minute intro call with me. On the call, we can discuss any branding, marketing, or lead generation challenges you may be facing. We can discuss what's working and not working in your business development process. And we can talk about how ArcMark can help your firm. When you schedule a call, there's a box to put your website URL in. And if you do that, I will do a mini review of your website, and I'll discuss my feedback with you on our call. So you can get a kind of a free website review out of it as well. So this is free. There's no obligation. If you're interested in doing that, just go to www.arcmark.co. And I think Olivia has already put that into the chat. All right. So with that, I'm ready to answer any questions you may have. I know I covered a lot of stuff and I went through it quickly. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to get out of my presentation here. Let's go back. So, okay. So I see we have some questions. Somebody asked, do landing pages that you have to click to get to the home page actually help with SEO? Okay, so there's a couple of different types of landing pages, and what we're referring to here, in general, a landing page is a page that is purpose built it's purpose built to get a specific result generally. So that's the first type of landing pages. A landing page is something that you want people to go to and you want them to respond to an offer. So you might have a landing page like for a webinar. Go to this page, sign up for my webinar, and that's typically on a like a marketing oriented landing page. That's the only information that's going to be on that page. It just relates to getting people to sign up for something. So a landing page can also, there's a second type of landing page, and I think people loosely refer to some pages as landing pages that are really more focused, either like industry sector or service type pages, where it's more of a page designed to help explain in more detail either a service offering or your role in a particular sector. So when you talk about landing pages, I think typically the landing pages that are focused more on getting a marketing result, where you're asking people to sign up for something, those typically you do not want Google to index those pages. Usually those are pages that have a certain certain lifespan. So they're not in an overall sense, they're not really designed to be like permanent pages that are going to get you SEO results. However, a service or a sector focused page where you're going in depth and talking about your role in a sector or how you addressed a certain sector, or you're talking about a specific service and you're really describing that in detail, that you would want set up to be indexed by Google, and you would want to use the right keywords and key phrases. You would maybe want to answer some of those FAQ questions on that page, maybe provide some insider insights as well. You would want to set up that page so that it's ranking you for that particular topic. And when it comes to keywords and getting found online, the more you can have a specific role for each page in your website that it matches up to a specific keyword or specific key phrase, the more success you're going to have with that page in SEO, in search engine results. So I hope that answers that question. Kirsten said, can you provide any insight on addressing voice to search for AEC firms' websites? Well, I'll be honest, this isn't an area where I specialize all that much in. It's voice to search is certainly becoming a more important topic. I would say if you're going to explore any kind of voice to search strategy, make sure that it's something that you think people would actually search through by voice. I mean, search by voice tends to focus more on things like getting information like news and information on is a store open or something like that. So make sure that the type of searches you want to be found for are the types of searches that people would use voice to search for. All right, Kate Allen asks, what are your thoughts about showing your people on your website value to potential clients? All right, so I get this question a lot, and this is a question that I will try to answer. I think that if you can show that you have a team that represents good talent, great expertise, then you're doing yourself a favor. You're showing that you are ready and prepared to deal with the problems that your clients are going to bring to you. A lot of firms tend to downplay lower team members and things like that on their website, or they don't include them. I really, the excuse we get is like, well, we will have to update our site too frequently or something like that. Honestly, I mean, I think you should be updating your site more frequently anyway, more than most people do now anyway. And your site is a living, breathing organism. It's not a static brochure or portfolio. So roles are going to change. People are going to get promoted. People are going to move on. New people are going to get added, and you should be representing your team online. Now, does everybody need to have their entire curriculum vitae on your website? No, I don't recommend that. Leave that for LinkedIn, even for the principals. We don't need to know everybody's full resume, but knowing some things about the team, about some of the maybe diverse interests or activities that they're involved in, that gives a glimpse of your culture, that gives a glimpse of the type of people that you want, not only on your team, but also it's usually a reflection of the type of people you want to work with too. So if you have creative young go-getters on your team, then yeah, absolutely feature them. I hope that answers your question, Kate. Abigail, what key metrics do you suggest reviewing regularly on Google Analytics? Well, so Google Analytics is a very deep subject, and there's a lot of things that you could look at. Number one, I would look at, your basic traffic. Are you how many users are you getting per month to your website? You would also want to look at where that traffic is coming from. Is a high number of it coming from links to your website that are out there on other sites? Is it coming from people searching in Google and finding you for specific search terms? Is it coming from your social channels, or is it coming from what we call direct traffic, where people are actually typing in your URL and landing on your homepage directly? One of the key things that people do not do when they set up Google Analytics is they do not connect Google Search Console. Google Search Console is another tool, another free tool offered by Google that allows you to see which search terms people are finding you for. And this is critical. This is one of the critical things you need to do. So when you set up analytics, think about how many visitors you're getting, where that traffic's coming from, maybe some of the demographics around that traffic. And then also, if you have goals set up on your analytics, take a look at the goals that you're achieving. Like, are you getting people to download that free offer that you're including on your site? So I think we have room for maybe one more, maybe one or two more. How visible should the menu for your website be on the homepage? This is I won't be able to make this any clearer. It needs to be visible. If you're making people guess where your navigation is, I can tell you I've done extensive user research. General Motors was a client of mine when I was in Switzerland. I was responsible for their 1,500 page corporate communications website. My team developed that website. This was back in 2000. So we did extensive user research. And I can tell you that unless things are very crystal clear on a web page, people get confused. They don't know what you're wanting them to do. Make your navigation as crystal clear as possible. It should be at the top of your page or in a place where it's very obvious that it's a navigation. All right. What's your response? This is from Abigail. What's your response to architects or others who are wary to share information on websites because they think competitors will steal it or recruit employees? Well, I mean, I don't know. What do you think Coca-Cola thinks about sharing information on its website? Do you think that they're sitting there worried about Pepsi or Sprite or anybody else stealing information from their website? I think that, obviously you don't want to give away your secret sauce on your website, but you want to share your expertise, your experience, and your know-how. You want to give people, help them understand that, hey, we have the chops to solve their problem. That's really important. So, honestly, I think a lot of architects overrate how the importance of what other architects might think of their websites or what they might be seeing on their websites. I will guarantee you that most architects, and we find this, they're looking at your site, of course. A lot of them, to be honest, are just copying what the other firm that they admire did for their website. You can see that in the copy that is written in a lot of architecture firm websites, especially. There's a lot of what we call copycat content. Here's the thing, and I'll just wrap this one up. If there are things that you can share that nobody else can share. That you have your own story, you have your own perspective, you have your own views on how things should work and how things should be done. If people want to copy that, then they're fools. So I would be very open about share what you think is going to be important to your clients. All right, Olivia, do we still have time for some questions? I just want to check in with you.
And we could probably do, a couple more. We do have a session after this, but if people are, if people are able to stay, they can definitely stay for a couple more minutes.
All right. Well, let's go through a few more then. Thank you, Olivia. All right. So, Yankee. I know I'm going to pronounce that wrong, but love some ideas on addressing client needs for firms that are generalists working in several industries, geographies. Should we have high value downloads in multiple areas? I would say that this is a good use of landing pages. So if you are in different industries, having those kind of industry pages on your website where you say, architect or engineer for XYZ industry, and then you make that page all about how you're serving that industry, and then you have a kind of like a high value download on that page that people can get and get more information, whether that's a worksheet or whatever it is, a project prep sheet, something like that. Might be a checklist, any number of different types of high value downloads. But if that's industry specific, that's going to help you from an SEO perspective. But it's also going to help you, I think, to show that you address these individual industries with authority and expertise. All right. So is Google Search Console important? Clarissa, yes. I think I already answered that question in one of the other questions, but yes. It's not important to getting found, but it's important to look at how you're getting found and what people are searching for when they find your website. So it's a really great way to see, hey, are we ranking for XYZ keyword? And if not, you can use Google Search Console to, like, if you created new content on your website to kind of start ranking for that term, then you could track and see how you're doing with those search terms. So it's a really great tool, and it's free. All right. Sankash says how to get the right people to visit your landing page. E.g., if you need people who are looking for holiday home construction, where do I get them? Well, okay, so there's a difference, Sankash. I mean, there's ways to attract people to your website. So things like what we do for a lot of our firms is we actually help them on LinkedIn to connect with the kind of clients they want to connect with. So we have an architecture firm that specializes in nonprofit projects, and so we've been helping them connect on LinkedIn with executive directors at the kind of nonprofits that they want to work with. So that's one way of kind of like you're developing relationships on LinkedIn. You're kind of talking about your firm. You're saying, hey, go check out this page on my firm, and then that's bringing them to your website. SEO is where we're trying to create content that will help us get ranked in search engines. And that's really what I focused on today was this idea of, if you answer the right questions, if you talk about your audience, like you said, holiday home construction, like if you are creating content on your website, like in the form of let's say a blog article, you write an article about the 5 things you should know before building a holiday home, right? Google is going to see that you're writing content about holiday home construction. And so when somebody goes into Google and they do a web search, holiday home construction firms, if your article is well written and it's ranking well in Google, it's likely to come up in those search results. And then they may see that article and say, oh, that looks like an interesting article. That looks like something I need to go check out. All right. Do you suggest a 24/7 chat on AEC sites? I only recommend it if you have the people to staff that and make sure that you're able to answer those questions 24/7. Melanie asks, this was the best explanation of what AE websites are like and what they need to do and why that I have heard. This was really helpful. I will try to reach out. Okay. All right. Very much clear and direct thing. All right. Much appreciated. Thank you, Melanie, for including that. Melanie, best practices for displaying projects on websites. Okay. So this is a great one to end on. This is our last question that I'll answer from Krista. What are the best practices for presenting your projects on a website? Well, there are no rules, right? You can have a project page. You can break that down into different industry sectors, etc. But by far and away, when you present your projects on your website, I highly recommend that you do that in what I would call like a case study format. So when somebody goes and lands on a project page, rather than just seeing pictures, let's include some details about the project. Let's include how much square footage the project was, or when it was completed, where it is. Doing stuff like that, I think, is really helpful because number one, it puts those projects in context. Number two, the other side of the case study is answering the what we call the problem, solution, result formula. So number one, what was the brief? What was the problem that they wanted you to resolve for them? What were you asked to do? Number two, talk about the solution that you provided. So what were some of the challenges that you helped the client overcome? What were some of the things that you figured out that help them save money or move quicker in the design process or whatever it may be. Number 3 is to talk about the results that they got from this. I have a client, he designed or renovated a restaurant for a client. They expanded the kitchen. This allowed them to grow their the number of tables that they could serve. It expanded their capacity, and that resulted. He's got facts and figures about how much they increased their beverage sales, how much they increased their turnover on in their business. So he can cite that information and say, hey, I got this client a clear result. And the inference is that I can get other clients those same results. So that's what I would say is that if you're going to display projects, always put them in context and help people understand. Not, you don't want to just present pretty pictures. You want to also present like, hey, here's this project. Here's what it represented. Here's was the problem we solved, the challenges we faced, and the results that we delivered. All right, so we got through all those questions. Just a few minutes over. So Olivia, should I just close it out, or you want to do that, or?
Yeah, no, you can close it out. All I have to say is thank you so much. It was an incredible presentation, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and those of you who were able to stay to finish up this presentation.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you everyone for watching today. Thanks again to the Zweig group for inviting me. Again, if you want to connect with me, just hit me up at info@arcmark.co or visit our website, arcmark.co. We have a lot of blog articles that I think a lot of you would find helpful. And please feel free to reach out to me if you want to schedule time with us. You can do so at the link provided. So with that, I'm going to close out, and I thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will send your contact information out tomorrow in the follow-up email as well. Okay.
Wonderful.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye everyone.